Hello and welcome to the Blank Cover Network. I'm BCV Dom and today we are talking about action figures, in particular a new release from McFarlane. He is an exclusive. It is DC's The Martian Manhunter. Okay, let's take a look. So this version of the Martian Manhunter is a Target exclusive in the States and he is a specialist retailer exclusive in other territories. So he's a little tricky to find. He's one of McFarlane's Gold Label collection, which is kind of like a chase, but also not. It's a little confusing. I think McFarlane's definitely playing by his own rules there. But what's more attractive to me, coming from the generation that I come from, this is the Martian Manhunter style that I grew up with. And that's why I wanted him in my collection. And going on a little toy hunt, what did I stumble across? One Martian Manhunter. Yes, please. I was a big fan of the Martian Manhunter in the 90s. He was part of Justice League Europe and Justice League International, or the other ones. And that was an interesting time for the Martian Manhunter because he's effectively being put in a comedy ensemble. Not, you'd think, Jean Johns' strong suit. But then you had the return of the Justice League with JLA. Grant Morrison's run, fantastic. That is the Justice League of my memory. That is Kyle Rayner as the Green Lantern, Wally West as the Flash, and very importantly, Jean Johns, the Martian Manhunter, as a power player in that lineup. He's had a bit of a resurgence now with Zack Snyder's Justice League, with Supergirl. He even had a maxi series from DC not too long ago. But this is the first time we're getting a 7-inch classic looking Martian Manhunter from McFarlane. So let's open him up and have a look. And here we have it, the Martian Manhunter, and he's already in a bit of a pose they've gone for to really help sell him through the window, and it works. I think it's a good, subtle little pose that they've put him in. And for my money, McFarlane have been on a bit of a roll this year. I loved that Reverse Flash, the Red Hood, and now Martian Manhunter. Do we have a top 10 DC McFarlane figures rounding out the year? I think we're filling up the contenders list. And looking at the accessories very quickly before we get into the figure, there are none. There are none. There are two. There are two, if you can call them accessories. You get the classic McFarlane base stand to help stand your figure up and pose them up. And you also get the signature trading card that McFarlane have been releasing with their DC Multiverse line. And this is cool. This trading card is of the action figure himself, really posed well. Kind of similar to the back of the action figures pose that we saw on the reverse of the packaging. Very similar photo. Maybe it was the same photo shoot. But there you go. Instead of a comic book version like we saw with the earlier lines, we're now getting trading cards of the figures themselves. Okay, enough with the accessories slash non-accessories. Let's get back to the figure. A few little snips, and Martian Manhunter will be free. And here we go, the Martian Manhunter with all his popped collar cape glory. This is a good looking action figure. Right off the bat, I'm going to say it definitely hits me in the nostalgia feels, right in the retro breadbasket, because he is the Martian Manhunter of my memory. He is a 90s looking Martian Manhunter. I think that makes him more appealing than the original release of the Martian Manhunter that we had earlier this year or late last year. That one was a cool looking figure, but very different to this. This figure knows it's appealing to people my age. Like, it just knows it is. Perhaps the bright colours, the sort of popping green, might make it look more attractive on the shelves to a casual buyer who doesn't know the Martian Manhunter, or a younger generation of toy collector or kids who want to get another Justice League member. But I don't know, for me it definitely works for those nostalgia reasons. So taking a deeper look at the action figure here, he has a lot of cool texture to his skin, and that's pretty cool. It's actually very subtle, but the sculpt is kind of like a bit of a, I'd say it's kind of like a hide instead of just a gentle skin. Obviously they've gone for something different because he's a Martian. He is the Martian Manhunter. All of his green surfaces, except for his head, and we'll come on to that in a second, they all have this sort of slightly dappled hide feel, as if it's had to really strike out against the overbearing sun that hits it. So I'm not saying he looks like a retiree in Florida who spends all their day in the sun, but you kind of get the texture that I'm talking about here, right? You get it. And then we have his very limited costume. You know, because he's an alien, no one's judging. He does things his own way, the Martian Manhunter way. But we have this really nice red X across that attaches or gives the illusion that it attaches to his belt, but actually is its own piece that is, I think, nestled together under the midsection of the buck itself. So you get quite a bit of articulation there. It doesn't get in the way. You can hear the squeaks to it as I move it, but it doesn't really get in the way. You can definitely pose the Martian Manhunter like you would other figures. And then you have the cape itself, and this is interesting. The cape is very rubbery, but very flexible. Would have been nice to have a cloth good. I definitely would have gone that route, but then you get it for $19.99, don't you? That's the whole beauty of McFarlane action figures. $19.99 in 2022. Thank you so much. We get a collectible, but you don't get cloth goods with this guy. You get the rubber cape instead, which is sort of, although it's flexible, it's permanently in one position of motion. It's the costume equivalent of McFarlane's side-eye, if you catch my drift. What is interesting, though, is the collar actually comes off quite a bit at the sides. As you can see here, the collar kind of pops up a little bit there on the left and a little bit on the right, and I think that is to give you extra motion when you turn his head. You're not really pushing against it there, and I think that's really cool. That's a very handy little bit of extra sculpt that they've done to help out with the action figures posing. That being said, you don't want it to pop up too high, as I've kind of got happening right here on the left hand side. So let's see if I can push that down a little bit. You know, I mean, a little bit of heat and it'll go where you want it to go. But for the sake of this video, we'll move on. And then you have the face and head sculpt, and this is pretty cool. He has a slight angular nature to the back of the head, a finish to the skull that is slightly alien. It's not quite human, but human enough. And then you have the paint job. It's got this really nice red eyes and deep dark coloring around on the cheekbones and on the sort of underneath the eyebrows as well. And then there's a finish on the upper lip that gives him a very well painted set of lips. He is definitely going to be puckering up for someone who I don't know, but it's a little expressionless. And that's kind of a strange thing to say, but if you want to have an action figure, a superhero, you kind of want them to be in motion. They do this a lot with the Superman action figures. We've yet to get a smiley Superman from McFarlane, but we definitely get a Superman means business McFarlane face. They do it a lot. And this, I feel like they've done a really good alien head, but the reality is we could have some emotion coming from this alien head as well. That wouldn't be too much to ask for. You don't quite get it in the eyes because it is one color, but it worked with the reverse flash where they gave him a grimace, and then that worked into the other sort of poses of the like hands and the arms and what articulation would allow you to do. It just worked as a whole, worked as a unit, and that's kind of what I feel is missing from this action figure. It's a really nice head sculpt. Don't get me wrong, it is a very nice head sculpt. It is slightly alien, it's got a really good paint job, they've done really good shading, but a bit of an expression would have been a welcome change for this action figure. One thing that is a little bit bizarre to me, and have a closer look. If you've got this guy, leave me a comment below after you've had a look for yourself, because I kind of feel like the boots are slightly the wrong shape. I feel like they've got an angle to them that pinches towards the front, as opposed to that classic almost Captain America cuff boot, which is just a bit of a circle. These are more streamlined, and I don't know which comic that comes from. It's definitely not Rebirth, and it's definitely not JLA Justice League America from the 90s and 2000s, so I'm not quite sure where this boot style comes from. But then it gets very narrow very quickly to the ankles, and you get good set of feet with the classic toe articulation. Thanks very much, McFarlane, don't stop doing that. But it just tapers very strangely to me. It's an odd design, and they also missed a trick because you can't turn the shoe at the cuff. Like, it'd be so easy to put a little bit of articulation in there, and so that you could actually turn it at the cuff, and it would look great because it's a blue cutoff from the rest of his green skin. So I kind of feel like they put all of their attention from the knees up. They really worked hard, and then the knees down was just a little bit of a let's phone it in or paint by numbers. I just feel like there's a lot of missed opportunity there. So let's go through the pros and cons of the Target exclusive Gold Label Martian Manhunter. Let's start with the cons, because I like to finish on the pros and keep things positive. The cons are not many, and they're not deal breakers either, but they're just things that I'd like to flag before we finish off here. The first being the head sculpt. It is a great sculpt, but a bit expressionless, a little bit lifeless. Could have done with a bit more energy, a bit more expression to the face, to the mouth, to the nose. But overall, really nice finish on the head sculpt with the shading. So it's in the cons list, but very gently. We've got the shoes, and this is like a double whammy of cons. The first is you missed out on articulation at the top of the cuff. That is so easy to do. They have a thing on the packaging that exclaims 22 points of articulation, exclamation mark, like it's a big selling point. Could have made it 24. You could have made it 24 super easily by putting some articulation around the cuff right at the top there. And then staying with this lower section of the Martian Manhunter, the next con I'd say is actually the shoe design, and therefore the execution in the build, in the buck itself. It's weird to me. It just tapers, it narrows way too much. His ankle is way too thin for the muscular nature of his body, and I don't know where the design comes from either. I think someone maybe took some liberties with it. If I'm wrong, please do put it in the comments below, and I might be wrong. So please do put in the comments below, tell me which comic book this style comes from with the line right down the right and left hand side of the boot. But it just could have been better. And as a fan of JLA, Justice League America, I have been looking forward to this figure and wanted a 10 out of 10, and because of that, it is not quite a 10 out of 10. Con, you get no accessories, 0 accessories. This is a strange one because actually if you look at like the Flash or Batman, they all come with something. They come with a grapple hook. Superman comes with a flight stand. Some of them come with a builder-figure. Some of them come with chainsaws painted gold or flashpoint effects for the reverse flash. Like so much stuff. Martian Manhunter, base stand, trading card. It's a little lackluster. For me, the Martian Manhunter easily could have come with a different head, an alternate head. That could have been something really good. Or alternate hands, or a hand effect, because he is a shapeshifter. Something that's reaching out, elongating, or like tendrils, or something like that. Could have been an easy accessory to give 2 of those for the Martian Manhunter. More bang for your buck. But no such luck. And I'm gonna say this as the last con, and it's not a massive con, but cloth goods would have been so nice on this action figure. I mean, though, all of you kit bashers, you customizers out there, you probably will go, yep, I'm doing that. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna put a cloth good on that. But it would have been nice to get it with the action figure itself. That being said, the permanence of the flow is fine. Like, it's okay. So I put that on the cons list, but actually it might fall off depending on who you are and what you want to do with the Martian Manhunter. Now let's move on to the pros list. Yeah, let's get positive. Pro number 1, great looking costume. Ignoring the boots, great looking costume. It is the costume of the 90s. It is exactly what I wanted from a Martian Manhunter so that he can join the rest of my Justice League. He can join Batman and Superman and Flash. That is exactly what I want from a Martian Manhunter, and this collector's edition fits the bill really nicely. Another pro, $19.99. Let me say it again, $19.99. If you can find the Martian Manhunter, you'll be paying the price that McFarlane like to set for us, and we thank them for it. It's 2022, and you can pick up this figure for $19.99. Another pro, I'd say, is the sculpt and the texture of the buck. I harped on about it way at the top of the video, so I won't do it again here, but just that hide texture to all the green on it, really nice, really good job, whoever designed this action figure. And lastly, on the pros list, and I didn't really delve into it because there's other YouTubers who specialize in that and have like special cameras that get really close, and I don't have those things. I'm talking about opinions that you and I like to share. His articulation is really good. He's got these great butterfly joints at the shoulders, as well as all the articulation. When McFarlane say they have 22 points of articulation with an exclamation mark, as much as I'd like 24, the 22 they have done are really good. It'll make a very posable action figure in your Justice League display. So there you have it, the Martian Manhunter Collector's Edition Gold Label from McFarlane. Well worth the $19.99 if you can pick them up. It is money well spent from me. Thanks so much for watching. If you could hit that like button, it'd be much appreciated, and I'll be back with another video very soon.